Alright guys, what is going on? So welcome back to another video. We are going to be doing Premier League predictions. Here we go. It's that time of the year again where I've got to get them in. So how we're going to do it, we're going to do top 8 teams, bottom 3. And then we're going to do all the trophy winners, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, Champions League, and the Europa League. I'm not going to do the Conference League because it's boring and it shouldn't be a competition. We're going to do Golden Boot, Player of the Season, and Manager of the Season. So that is what we are going to do for today's video. But let's just get straight into it with the top of the table. Who's going to finish first in the Premier League? Manchester City will win the Premier League again, people. I mean, you know, people are trying to be different. You know, many people want Arsenal to win the league this year. And yes, it could happen, but it won't happen. Arsenal will not win the league. I'm sorry. It will be Manchester City again. It will be 5 years in a row. They're a juggernaut, and you can't beat them. You know, I think the only way for Man City not to win the Premier League is if the 115 they get fined for it and relegated. That for me, that's the only reason and the only way to stop Manchester City, because when they're in the league, they're unstoppable and they're not going anywhere until the 115 hopefully take place, which will be coming up soon. So I've got Manchester City winning the league again, 5 years in a row. Second place, I'm going to go for Arsenal again. I think they're going to fall short again. Arsenal, but you know, I don't think Arsenal are a fluke anymore. You know, I think 2 seasons ago where they did really well and come second and they were top for the majority of the season, I think people thought it was a fluke. It wasn't, because they backed it up last year and played very well last year, Arsenal. But again, fell short, and I expect it to do the same again. I think where Arsenal fans are getting a bit annoyed at Mikel Arteta is that he hasn't really won any trophies, Mikel Arteta. You know, you look at the previous 2 seasons, Arsenal have arguably been one of the best teams in the league. Yeah, they haven't won the FA Cup, haven't won the Carabao Cup, haven't won the Champions League. They've got nowhere near winning it, in fact. So, listen, I think Arsenal could win a trophy this season, but you're going to have to wait for me to do the trophies, because it could happen for Arsenal. I do expect Arsenal to finish second again. And, you know, I just don't think really Arsenal have done enough business, to be honest. I mean, they signed Calafiori, that's it. For me, it's not enough to. That's not enough to close the gap on Manchester City, in my opinion. But moving on to third place. This was difficult. This was a toss-up. But I'm going to go for Liverpool. I just think, you know, this is the sticky one for me with Liverpool. Arne Slot's come in. No Jurgen Klopp for the first time in, I think, a decade. Or like 8 years. So it's going to be weird for Liverpool fans and weird for Liverpool players to not have Jurgen Klopp. And, you know, Arne Slot could fail, but I don't think he will fail, because, you know, he's kept a lot of players. Van Dijk staying, Salah staying, Trent staying. These big players are staying at Liverpool this season. Even though I think most of them have 1 year left on the contract, I think they're going to give it everything this season for the new manager. And I do think Liverpool will have a good season, to be honest. I really do. So yeah, Liverpool for third place. Fourth place, maybe it's a little bit biased, but I am going to go for Manchester United. I just am. I do think United will get top 4. I mean, last season we had an awful season. You know, it was embarrassing. You know, but the signings we've made are really going to help us, you know, especially Matthijs de Ligt. You know, people are writing de Ligt off already. It's embarrassing. You know, if he signed for another club, de Ligt, they won't be doing this. It's only because he signed for Manchester United. But I believe de Ligt is going to be an absolutely brilliant signing. I really do. And I think him and the Martinez partnership, they could form something really strong together this upcoming season, and hopefully for future seasons ahead. But yeah, I do have Manchester United finishing 4th. I just think that we're going to improve on last season, and we need to get that Champions League football back at Old Trafford ASAP. And yeah, United for 4th. So 5th place, just finishing out of the Champions League spots. I have got Spurs. I think Spurs are going to finish 5th. Ange Postecoglou, took the Premier League by storm, really, last season with his style of play. Spurs fans weren't used to seeing it. I don't think the Spurs players were used to playing that way, but I think Spurs last season had a very successful season. Yes, they didn't win anything, and they didn't get Champions League, but they were entertaining. Very entertaining Spurs, and I think they'll be entertaining again. This season. They've signed a couple of players. Archie Gray, the youngster they've signed. No doubt he'll develop at Spurs and maybe break into the team this upcoming season. But I think Spurs will have a decent season. And yeah, I've got Spurs finishing 5th. So 6th place, I've got Newcastle United. I think Newcastle are going under the radar a little bit this season. But I think 6th place for Newcastle is a very good season. And it's unfortunate for Newcastle because, yes, they are the richest club in the Premier League, richest club in the world, and yet they can't spend the money because of FFP, which is fair. It is fair because if they spend the money, they would win everything. Bit like Man City. But Newcastle, I have them finishing 6th. I think it's a decent season for Newcastle. I think it was very important for Newcastle to keep Alexander Isak this summer, which they have done. You've got Tonali coming back into the squad as well. I'm a huge fan of Sandro Tonali. If you know me personally, I absolutely love Tonali. Very jealous that Newcastle got him. And, Tonali's got to have a big season next year because he was banned last year for the gambling. So he's got to come back into that Newcastle team and, have a big season. Really, he really does. So I have Newcastle finishing 6th in the Premier League next season. 7th place, I'm going to go for Aston Villa. I just think that the Champions League is going to affect Villa. I really do. I mean, you saw it with Newcastle. When Newcastle got Champions League football, they really struggled last season with it. And I think it's going to happen to Villa. Because, yes, Villa, they have a very good first team in my opinion, but their squad depth, I just don't think it's that great. And I think that they are going to struggle a bit like Newcastle. I think Villa will prioritise the Premier League because I think Unai Emery even knows that Villa probably won't get that far. But 7th for Aston Villa, I still think it's a good season. And I think Unai Emery will take that, especially with the Champions League. It's going to be congested next year for Villa. So it'll be interesting to see how they do. And then 8th place, I have got Chelsea. Now, hear me out. Originally, I thought Chelsea would finish lower, but I just don't think they can. They've signed too many players. 8th is low for Chelsea, don't get me wrong. But I just feel like Chelsea, they've signed too many players to have a bad season. And 8th is a bad season, but you know what I mean? I don't think they're going to finish 10th like people are saying. Yes, they have signed too many players. I do think that's going to upset, the dressing room because everybody wants to play and everybody's not going to play because you've signed about 50 players again. But yeah, I do think Chelsea are going to struggle. I think Maresca, I'm going to say it, I think Maresca's going to be sacked before Christmas. I've just got a feeling. When that appointment was made, I made a video about it. I just don't understand what Chelsea are doing. I see Maresca being sacked before Christmas. Hot take. I think he's going to struggle. I think the pressure of Chelsea, huge club, I think Maresca's going to crumble. I really do. Now, moving into the relegation, the bottom 3. 20th to 18th is how I'm going to do it. So, finishing bottom of the Premier League, I have got Ipswich. I just don't see Ipswich doing anything next season, to be honest. Yes, they've got some decent players. Amari Hutchinson, they've just signed Calvin Phillips on loan today, actually. But no, I just can't see Ipswich doing anything. I can't. Listen, Kieran McKenna, I think, is a brilliant manager and could do well in the future. But I just think the pressure of the Premier League, the teams you're going to come up against, is completely different to the Championship. And I think Ipswich are going to really, really struggle. To be honest, and I see them going straight back down. 19th, I've got another team coming up from the Championship going straight back down, and that is Southampton. I just think Southampton are gonna struggle this season again. Southampton are one of them teams, really. They always just are in there about relegation, and I do see them going down again. But I just think Southampton are a team that, if they do go down, they'll come straight back up again, because they're a big team, Southampton. They've got a lot of money, but I do think they will go down, Southampton, and I see them struggling. So 18th, so just about going down. This was difficult for me. But I've got Everton. I have got Everton. I think, Everton should be relegated. They should have been relegated, like 2 years ago. Somehow survived. But I do think this is the end for Everton in the Premier League. Even though I think they'll come straight back up, I do see Everton getting relegated this upcoming season. They've lost Onana, who was a big player for them. He's gone to Aston Villa. But yeah, I just see Everton going down this upcoming season, which is a shame for Everton, because they're a huge club. They've never been relegated, I don't think. So it'll be sad to see, but I just see them going down. Now, moving on to the trophy winners. So we've got the Champions League, Europa League, FA Cup, and the Carabao Cup. So Champions League winners, I am going to go for Real Madrid. I think Real Madrid are going to win the double back-to-back again. I just think that signing of Kylian Mbappe, I think Real Madrid are the team to beat in Europe, and I just can't see anyone beating them, to be fair. I think the closest team that can beat him is probably Manchester City. But I just think Real Madrid are just going to be too strong for the rest of Europe next season. Because they won it without Mbappe last year, and they've added Mbappe. Their team's got stronger people. And yeah, I think Real Madrid definitely the team to beat. Now, moving into the Europa League, I think maybe it's might be biased again. I think Manchester United are going to win the Europa League. I do. I think Ten Hag will take it seriously. I know I've put Manchester United fourth in my Premier League predictions, but if we do have a bad season, Ten Hag will heavily focus on the Europa League, because it's a way to get back into the Champions League if you win it. And I do think we will win the Europa League. I think we've got a really strong, squad now. And hopefully when everybody's, back fit, like Yoro and Rasmus, we can start to, there we are, starting 11 in the Europa League, because you don't want to play the same players, Premier League, Europa League, because it's Thursday, Sunday. It is a nightmare for players, but we've done it before. Like, we've won the Europa League with Jose Mourinho before, so we have done it. And I just see Manchester United winning the Europa League this season. I really do. Moving on now to the FA Cup. I see Manchester City winning the FA Cup. I do think City will win the FA Cup this year. Obviously got to the final last year. Manchester United beat them though. And I think Pep will want to sort that, and put it right this time. And I do think City will win the FA Cup, because they got so close last year and they failed at the final hurdle. But I do think City will win the FA Cup. Now, moving into the Carabao Cup. This one's a bit difficult, actually, for the Carabao Cup. This one's a bit tricky, but I'm going to go for a team that I don't think many people will say. And I'm going to go for Aston Villa to win the Carabao Cup. I'm going to go for Aston Villa because, you know, a bit like United, you know, Unai Emery, if Villa have a terrible like Champions League campaign, I think Emery will focus on the Carabao Cup. And I think Villa have more than a good enough squad to win the Carabao Cup. And I think it'll be a really good achievement for Villa if they can win the Carabao Cup, because it'll be the first trophy they've won in, you know, quite a while. So, yeah, I've got Villa for the Carabao Cup. Now, moving on to Manager of the Season, Player of the Season. Manager of the Season, I'm gonna be boring. Pep Guardiola, I think, will be Manager of the Season. I mean, usually Manager of the Season is whoever wins the Premier League, and I think City will win the Premier League. So I think not Jurgen Klopp. What am I on about? I think Pep Guardiola will win Manager of the Year. Player of the Year, I don't want to say someone from City. I don't. I want to be a bit different. I want to be bold. Player of the Season, I'm actually going to go for Martin Odegaard. I'm going to go for Odegaard for Player of the Season. It probably won't happen because they usually give it to someone who wins the Premier League. But I'm going different. I'm going to go Martin Odegaard to win Player of the Year. You know, he's a phenomenal player, Martin Odegaard. He's that dictator in the Arsenal team. He's the creative spark. And yeah, Martin Odegaard, I think, is just such a wonderfully talented footballer. So wonderful to watch. Makes the game look so easy. And, you know, I do think he will win Player of the Season, Odegaard. But yeah, guys, that is it. That is my Premier League predictions. Let me know, guys, in the comments your thoughts on my predictions. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comments. That's what it's about. You know, it's about opinion. It's about sharing my opinion, and that's what I've done. But yeah, I cannot wait for the Premier League. It is literally back tomorrow. We are doing a watch along for Manchester United v Fulham on the channel. Probably going to be going live around 7:45 because it is an 8 PM kickoff. So make sure you're there for that one. But guys, please like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll catch you later.